Welcome to the Football Parliament podcast, your one stop destination for all your football debates, discussions, and opinions. Modern football started the day when a crazy Catalonian decided to become a football manager, and the rest is history, what we've done. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about one of the greatest managers of all time to grace the game. It's none other than Pep Guardiola, how he's transformed Manchester City, and we'll also talk about the differences between the last season City and this season City. Starting with you, Rishabh, what do you feel about the key changes Pep Guardiola made this season?
First of all, I'd like to talk about before we get to the key changes. I think right now is a good time to talk about the difficulties that we faced this season. Manchester
Yeah,
City were absolutely strikerless the entire season. We did not have Sergio Aguero, who unfortunately was out of form, injured, was in COVID positive, and now he's back scoring only one goal in open play and three penalties, two in the Champions League and one in the Premier League. And for Pep Guardiola to adapt his style of play into being a false nine, with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, playing that central forward, I feel his tactics for the attacking side has definitely improved. Yes, Manchester City have been extremely unlucky with our defenders in the past. We've made some big signings where we would have expected at least a Champions League in the past, if not the Champions League final this season. And defensively, we weren't all over the place. We were just very unlucky, with some of the key moments and our key players. But this season, Pep Guardiola, he's been a bit better with his money management. 20 million for Ferran Torres, who in the Premier League and this entire season for Manchester City has been absolutely brilliant. I myself doubted if Ferran Torres would be any good. And then with the bringing of Nathan Ake, who I feel to some extent is not the brightest signing yet, but I think he can prove his potential in the next season, if not injured. And then, of course, the main man to talk about, I feel like the one who's changed Manchester City's defense and given us confidence is, of course, Ruben Dias. I think this is the first time we've gotten very lucky with a defender, since Vincent Kompany and Michael Richards. So I really believe that Pep has actually, with his money, he's been so careful about the way he spent, because we spent almost £1 billion pounds on defenders, or on our entire team, if I'm not wrong, but mostly on defenders. So for Pep to actually get a huge steal, I think it was 65 million for Ruben Dias, in his prime at the age of 23, to drag him into the Premier League was absolutely amazing. So that's what I think. What about you, Vedant?
talking about Ferran Torres, I will talk about Pep Guardiola, but since I'm a Spain fan, I really love watching Ferran Torres. Okay, the thing about him is that he came from Valencia and he wasn't a starter there. And like I saw him twice or thrice and he wasn't really that good. But Pep Guardiola has really worked on him. And in Valencia he was a proper left winger, but here I think City's used him more on the right flank. Plus, if you look at his stats this season, they've been incredible. I mean, he scored a hat trick against Newcastle, which was very good. And talking about one great goal of his, which can be a Puskas-worthy goal. In 22 games, he scored 7 goals and assisted twice in the Premier League. But the thing is that the stats don't really support him, because half of the times it's been him, starting off in the 60th or the 70th minute. So, stats really don't do him that good. He scored 13 to 14 goals this season. He's one of Spanish youngsters like who really will Spain will really rely on him on the future. So that's great. And coming back to the topic of Pep Guardiola, that he's really transformed Man City this season, barely using money. Yes, that's true. I mean, someone like Pep barely using money is a bit harsh to say, but he's done that this season. Man City fell short last season of the Premier League. They couldn't win it for the third time in the row because Liverpool were ahead of them by 18 points. Then even in the Champions League, they lost to a Leon side, which weren't even in the top three spots in the League One last season. That's what I remember. But the difference between this Man City and last season's Man City was that Man City's greatest strength last season was in the final third. Like they netted 102 league goals last season, and this season it's only been 76. They officially create a lot of chances. That's true. If you look at their game, they have like 12 to 13 shots in total, and only 4 or 5 of them, go on target. So that's the reason why there's a reason why because of that happens, that they lack a striker. That's the thing. But Pep Guardiola has worked really very well without a striker. I mean, he used Kevin De Bruyne as a false nine or at right wing sometimes, and used Mahrez, and Sterling has also we've barely seen the prime Sterling this season. So we really can't talk about much about their key players being Aguero and Sterling and them not playing this season much. Then, if you looked at their weaknesses, last season it was Benjamin Mendy who was injury prone, and they used Zinchenko. But if you look at Zinchenko this season, he had a great game against PSG, and overall he's been very good this season. And he's also used Joao Cancelo at left back. That's really great. And Joao Cancelo mostly has stepped up this season, and even at left back, his prime spot is right back. But that's okay. Uh, Going back to you, Rishabh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when we compare last season to this season, I feel like what's more important to talk about is our attack. Like you mentioned, 102 league goals. This season, we haven't created the most chances. I feel that's where we lacked. And although we create chances, we don't have a natural finisher in our squad. Pep is often playing players out of their depth, but it's actually very good and very fortunate for us that these are very well talented players. Players who can adapt to any place on the pitch. And for an example, like Joao Cancelo, natural right back, but playing as a false midfielder for most of the games, playing at right mid for most of our matches as well. He's been absolutely phenomenal, and I think this season Pep really has to, with the part of Sergio Aguero, I really think he has to reconsider a striker, because I personally feel like Gabriel Jesus, although as amazing he may be, he is not the most consistent striker that City's had. We've had the likes of Edin Dzeko and Alvaro Negredo to be more consistent than Gabriel Jesus has been for us. So I really think Pep needs to
Hmm.
reconsider that, so we can reach not only the 100-goal limit, but I think we can finally, you know, win the matches. We don't leave the matches up to chance, because there have been matches in the first half of the season where we've absolutely bottled it because of not having a striker. And so again, like last season, we had Sergio Aguero, who scored at least 20 goals this season. Even if he plays for half of it, breaking the most hat tricks scored, by Alan Shearer. Aguero's now at 13. So it's pretty phenomenal to see, if you have a striker, the things you can do, and especially for somebody like Sergio Aguero, who is obviously a club legend. But for City to play strikerless this season, I think it's been a bit unfortunate for us. And moving on to last season's midfield. Last season's midfield consisted of Fernandinho, Kevin De Bruyne, and most of the time it was Rodri and not Ilkay Gundogan, which, be that as it may, we did finish second, but like you said, we were 18 points behind Liverpool. Uh, Two defensive midfielders really weren't that necessary. I mean, yes, we had some extremely unfortunate matches, like 3-1 loss against Liverpool, the two times that we lost to Man United, both at the Etihad and
Yeah.
at Old Trafford. Having those two holding midfielders really doesn't help when you have only one creative player like Kevin De Bruyne. But compared to this season, I feel like Pep Guardiola, he's actually told them, you have to perform at your level best or you will be benched. And we've seen that Pep Guardiola isn't afraid to bench people. When Kevin De Bruyne himself, he was benched for 2 games because he simply didn't play that well against Leicester. So, him telling those players to be at your very best if you want the game time. I think that's why we see people like Phil Foden and Ilkay Gundogan, playing almost every match, or at least being a substitute in every match, is at least because they start up the game, because they know they need that game time. And as for the defense, it's very unfortunate to talk about it, but last season, Aymeric Laporte was our key defender. John Stones wasn't in the best of his form. Fernandinho had to play centre back. It was just terrible because we had pretty old players who I think we should have let go of this season, but we only let go of David Silva and Nicholas Otamendi, in exchange for Ruben Diaz. I don't think that's too bad. And for our fullbacks, I think, then again, we might be a bit unlucky because the style of play is different. See, with Pep Guardiola, it is a whole system. But an example I have to give from this season is the match against Newcastle, where we conceded 3. This is the first time we've conceded more than 2. And the last time we conceded more than 2 was the Leicester game away at home. So it was pretty terrible, because you need a system and you don't need 11 different players playing their way. So it's a bit unfortunate, but luckily this season they've been way more disciplined. They've set up their game, like you said, Joao Cancelo, Alexander Zinchenko, Ben Mendy to some extent as well. He's been putting in very good crosses lately. He's been scoring some important goals for us as well. So I think that's what I feel. What do you think is the major change apart from our defense this season, Vedant?
See, if you looked at Man City last season, I mean, this season I've barely seen City because this is a crucial year for me. But last season I did see Man City. They had some key injuries last season. Pep Guardiola has improved the fitness levels at the club. I mean, Premier League teams are built on routine. Like they should marry rest, recover, and train at intense levels. Yet that continuity was difficult to ensure due to the unpredictable nature of the season. As the season wore on, the fight for the title seemed restricted to the two neighbours. While City relied on a superior squad with great quality in depth, United's bunch showed fitness levels higher than most of the teams in the league. Guardiola himself couldn't explain how Man City managed to keep so many of their players fit during this campaign, considering they had been embroiled in a tight tussle with Liverpool for the Premier League title in the past 2 seasons. Having to play at the top intensity constantly for the past 3 to 4 years should have taken its toll, but that simply didn't happen. That's something we should look at because in the previous season, Man City have had many injuries. But what was the reason when doing exactly the same thing as this one? The same guys, the same physios, the same preparation, the same cookers. I think the same vibes. I don't know why in one season it's perfect and other one we struggle a lot. That's what I'm quoting Pep Guardiola. He said that according to the Guardian. Then the other key change was the arrival of Ruben Diaz. I mean, that man is just phenomenal. He even at centre back, he has a lot of influence of the game. I mean, he's like a natural leader. I mean, they signed him from Benfica for around 62 millions, and then he paired him up with John Stones, another high-profile central defender who was earlier struggling at City. But they seem to have completely changed the defensive structure of the team. Diaz and Stones with Rodri in front of them have conceded only 0.74 goals on an average per game after 35 games. They allowed a mere of 78 shots on target, 18 fewer than the next best in this regard, which is Chelsea. They have conceded only 26 goals in 35 games since Diaz signing. City have conceded 19 goals in 30 games.
19.
These are some stats which I can mention. 19, 1-9. So the centre back has been really crucial in making the Man City the best defensive team in the league right now. Then there's one more change. I mean, last season it was City's attack, which I think was very crucial for them. But this season it's been the goals from the midfield. I mean, with both his established strikers suffering from COVID-19 and injuries through the season, Guardiola's system had to change from that. The one that boasted Sergio Aguero or Gabriel Jesus to, allow the most prolific attacking midfielders of his team to shine. None did this as well as Ilkay Gundogan, brought to City as a deep lying playmaker, a deep lying playmaker just like Toni Kroos, and one of the first names on the injury list. The Germans' resurgence has seen the storm up the pitch more often gliding into space late in a move and slotting home 12 goals this season, and 12 really very important goals, some of them against top sides in the Premier League. Then a strikerless football experiment that Guardiola began with Messi at Barcelona. I mean, he's taken that shape at City too. The false nine position is one that has, been activated by Pep Guardiola and used to devastating effect. Be it Kevin De Bruyne against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, where City had less possession but more clear chances on goal. Or Phil Foden at Anfield, as the youngsters' movement of the ball was not just picked enough for Liverpool. Plus, there was one more change in City this season that their homegrown talent came through. Phil Foden, he is expected to be the star of Man City for the next decade or so. The future of the 20-year-old Phil Foden and City's heavy spending in the transfer windows had been a collision course because last season Foden wouldn't get much starts, but this season Foden has been an absolute key for Man City. So there's clearly been a difference in Man City and a huge, huge difference. And when there's a difference in the clubs, like if you look at someone like Real Madrid or Barcelona, it's usually what do you call it? It's like a change in scenarios. I mean, it's called a rebuilding. And here, Man City have just changed a bit of their players, changed a bit of tactics, and they've really came through. I mean, they're in a Champions League final and they won the Premier League already. So it's really very good for Man City right now. And in my opinion, they're I think either the best team in the world right now or the second best, but they're definitely there.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Pep Guardiola project, by Man City, I think our owners themselves did know. I mean, yeah, we are known for our oil money as well. But jokes apart, I really feel like they did invest in Pep Guardiola because they knew that he will ask for money to get the defenders. He will get what he wants, and he will transform them. And we've seen it this season. We've seen, signings we've had for 2 3 years just suddenly step up this season. And as for a homegrown talent, Phil Foden isn't the only one. I have to mention the likes of Liam Delap and Tommy Doyle. If you may not remember the FA Cup match against Bournemouth, Liam Delap scored a brace against them
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
when he
yeah.
started. And Tommy Doyle this season has also started for us in the Premier League midfield. He has been pretty good, but they are Premier League 2 champions.
Hmm.
And I feel like one question I do have to ask you, and for the people who watch this video, is that this season Liverpool were out because of Virgil van Dijk. I think that's the reason they were out of the title race. So do you feel like maybe City got a bit lucky, with the fact that some of the sides had injuries or they weren't playing well? Or do you think that Pep just had an entire masterclass of the season? What do you think, Vedant?
See, I really don't think that City went on, like a luck, road or something like that. Pep Guardiola masterclass was there this season. Although they didn't have a striker, and some of their goals were a bit of a luck, but I wouldn't say the entire season as a whole was a luck. Pep Guardiola definitely did had his masterclass. I mean, he's one of the biggest geniuses in football world, and there's literally nothing to say about him because everybody knows about him anyways. So it's definitely not luck on the side. I mean, if luck was there, then I would say the same for Atletico Madrid. They're clearly winning the title in La Liga, and that's because Real Madrid have had 60 injuries this season, and Barcelona also had key injuries. So maybe that would be the reason why Atletico won the league. But no, it's not that. I mean, Man City won the Premier League, and they clearly deserved it this season because everything changed there. I mean, two to three starting players changed. Ruben Diaz was introduced. Emerick Laporte benched, and Ferran Torres also had a key role. So I really don't think that it was a luck. It was a bit of luck. Definitely, just a bit of luck, but definitely Pep Guardiola masterclass was there.
Hmm. I think that is pretty interesting. And to some extent, I do agree. Yes, it was a Pep Guardiola masterclass because if you recall, December the 7th against West Bromwich Albion, the 1-all draw, I think that was the wake up call for Pep. I think that's when he knew that, if he goes a second season without at least one major trophy, because let's be honest, domestic cups don't really matter that much to, big teams like Manchester City, Real Madrid, Barcelona, wherever in the world, whichever league. And I think Pep really knew that because he spent quite a lot of money. And I feel like if not for Manchester City, for his own legacy, to be the very best. I think the 20 game unbeaten streak that we went was, I think, absolutely phenomenal. I think it was one of the best moments I think football has ever seen so far. It stands right up to the next of the introduction of Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and the invincible season, of course. But this side could genuinely beat the Invincibles. This side has been absolutely phenomenal this season. We've had a monster of a defense, and our attack has, however inconsistent they may have been in the last year or so, this season they've absolutely turned up. I think they've taken good advantage of the fact that some key injuries were there, for Liverpool, like the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez. I feel like taking advantage of those situations is what we would call a Pep Guardiola masterclass. So moving on from the Premier League, now Vedant, I know that Real Madrid lost to Chelsea in the Champions League semi-finals, and I know that you're rooting for Manchester City to win to get the trophy. Where do you
Yeah.
think City can beat Chelsea? Like, what do you think is the one thing that City can exploit? Is it Chelsea's defense? Is it its midfield? Tell us.
See, I think Ruben Diaz and John Stones can pocket Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, and probably even Mason Mount. I mean, Chelsea's attack is something that they're lacking. I mean, like I said in my previous podcast, that Chelsea always, lack that intensity which is needed in the final third, and that's where the key thing that Chelsea need to work on, and I think they will work on it. I think that's where Chelsea's weakness lies, their biggest weakness lies, and Man City can clearly work on it, and even with Diaz and Stones at centre back. So they don't really have a problem there. The problem where City can have is also their attack because they're going without a striker in the finals. I mean, they do have strikers, but they obviously won't play them because they aren't good enough. So I think it's the attack. It's definitely the attack for both the clubs. I mean, Chelsea don't have a great attack. Man City have a strikerless team. So it can be anything. It's a 50-50 game, to be honest.
Maybe I think with Chelsea's attack, I would disagree with you, but because Chelsea this season, like you said, they don't have a traditional number nine who they can rely on. Earlier in the
Yeah.
season, in the Champions League group stages, it was Tammy Abraham, it was Olivier Giroud. But this season, we see them play the same way City's played, more of a false nine. Any striker could go up. It could be Timo Werner from the left to strike. It could be Kai Havertz from the center midfield. It could be Mason Mount as well. So, who do you think plays the system better? Who do you think plays the false nine system better, in your opinion, from any match that you've seen?
Between Man City or Chelsea?
Yes.
See, to be honest, both the teams equally play that false nine role really good. I mean, false nine was used against Real Madrid too, and how effective was that? You really know that. You would definitely know that. Sorry. And even Man City, I mean, they've played the false nine mostly all of the season. Either Kevin De Bruyne or Phil Foden have played the false nine role for Man City. So both of them are, exceptionally good at that. So if I have to root, I'll say Man City because playing without a striker. I mean, Chelsea have used Tammy Abraham or Olivier Giroud this season, and Man City really haven't, relied on Gabriel Jesus or Sergio Aguero for that matter. So I'll say Man City.
I do agree with you. But like you said, Champions League is a 50-50. And, we're known as serial bottlers, but I feel this season maybe we can finally break that curse because I think winning a Champions League trophy right now would mean more to Manchester City fans than it would to Chelsea fans because let's be frank, they've won it all with their golden era of Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, Arnim Zola. I think they've won it all, and for City it would mean much more. So I think City will put in a more aggressive performance. And personally, I feel what they would exploit from Chelsea is, apart from their attack, I feel it would be the left. I feel it would be the wide channels. And because the midfield, let's be honest, the midfield is being bossed by N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante is an absolute machine. You can see him mark a lot of men on the pitch without getting tired, and that's absolutely phenomenal from him. But the fullbacks for Chelsea aren't exactly the best. I mean, yes, Reece James and Ben Chilwell are pretty good, but against a side like Manchester City, I don't think they can perform at their level best because it would be easy for world class players like Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Riyad Mahrez, the magician, to exploit those chances. So I think maybe the tides would be in City's favor. So yeah.
See, talking about the hunger of winning the Champions League, it's always a 50-50, even of the hunger and the dedication of winning the Champions League, because Champions League is a coveted trophy. I mean, everyone wants to win that trophy. Every, professional football player wants to win that trophy. So it's not that Chelsea fans have seen the 2012 Champions League coming home and they don't want this and stuff. Both of them equally want that bad because Chelsea reached the finals for the first time after 2012, and it's been 9 or 10 years after that. So even they won the trophy as much as City fans wanted. Obviously, it's for the first time that City are going to the finals, but it's gonna be it's gonna be equally for both the fans and both the professional players. It's gonna be equal. And talking about the fullback system, I mean, Man City have lost twice to Chelsea this season, and Reece James and Ben
It was
Chilwell were
luck.
playing.
It was luck. It was luck.
Reece James and Ben Chilwell, and I think they were playing those games. So I don't think the fullbacks are really the problem. The problem will be Chelsea's attack if they could score one or twice or two times. We really don't know.
So So that's all the time we have for Manchester City's analysis throughout the season. If you did like the video, do share it, do subscribe. And we'll see you for tomorrow's video, which I think would be a pretty interesting one, as Vedant mentioned in the last podcast video. If you do like listening to us, you can check us out on Spotify instead of YouTube. That would be of great help as well. And we'll see you all in the next video.
That's the video for today, guys. Let me just clear out one thing. I mean, 5 to 6 viewers have told me that why don't you rename yourselves to Premier League Football Parliament? The answer to that will be tomorrow. because tomorrow we won't focus on Premier League at all. It's really gonna be a great video tomorrow. There's gonna be a lot of fun. You all should watch tomorrow's video too. And like the button, share and subscribe to our channel. That's the video for today. Bye.